All right, guys. Hey, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Welcome.
We have Jaris and Tony, right? And you guys are with Good Faith Lending.
Correct.
Yeah. So the reason why I had you guys on today is because I know we met through a investor group, right? And Tina Reddick, how did you guys connect with Tina Reddick? I can't remember.
We got introduced to Tina through another real estate brokerage office, I believe up in the Sheboygan area. Said, hey, you should touch base with Tina. She'd be another good investor group. And we just kind of got, introduced from there and got a chance to meet, and it was wonderful. We got a chance to meet you through that. So that was great.
I'm glad we had that connection because I know a lot of investors that I work with are typically newer, and you guys do like the hard money lending. And I think there's a lot of confusion with I wouldn't say confusion. I guess more like not sure how it works or kind of scared of how it operates. So I thought you guys would be like perfect for it. So, well, first, before we jump into hard money lending, you guys mind giving me kind of your background for them to kind of know who you guys are, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Jaris Briski, and Tony and I own Good Faith Funding together. I've been kind of in the corporate world for 28 years, but for the last 7 or 8 years or so, also been working with Tony on Good Faith Funding. I left the corporate world in a different industry and really focus on using a different part of my brain and enjoy real estate and entrepreneurship.
That's awesome.
And just chatting with them. So,
do you miss the corporate world?
I do not.
Yeah.
I get to wear what I want every day. I get to work when I want, although we work very hard on our business. And Tony and I get along extremely well, so I don't have all the sometimes the nonsense that comes with the corporate world. So I do not miss it, to say the least. I put it in the rearview mirror and enjoy my days better.
Yeah, you could leave on vacation tomorrow if you wanted to.
That's exactly
pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah. And then Tony, what about you?
Yeah, so I actually have not been in the corporate world. I started doing traditional mortgage lending back in 1997 once I graduated from college, and started buying rentals in 1999. I was doing house hacking before it was cool, before the word. I learned about that term about 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But I bought my first 3 properties. I lived in them, duplex, triplex, duplex. Then bought a bunch of properties with my brothers. Had to get very creative. We didn't have a ton of money, so we had to get very creative with how we use lines of credit, partners, all these different things. And in doing that, I learned that you could roll over a 401k into a self-directed IRA. And I did that because I wanted to buy more properties with it. But and you can. And another
avenue we may
podcast for another day. But it didn't work out exactly the way I wanted it to for what I was looking at accomplishing at that point. So, but I do mortgages for a living. So I'm like, and people in the real estate world always needed money. I thought, well, man, I can lend that out. So instead of saying Wells Fargo, it said Tony's 401k as the lender, right? Small community, people kept coming to me for money. And then I'm like, well, I don't have any more. But I found people like Jaris. I'm like, Jaris, you got an old crappy 401k. Let's roll it into a self-directed IRA and lend that thing out. So we started just word of mouth, basically, growing that. And it got to a point that it was friends, family, and then it get to be friends of friends that were saying, hey, I want to invest with you. And so Jaris and I then started a fund where actually people invest with us, sign a subscription agreements, registered, all that fun stuff. And then we lend that out to real estate investors. So that's kind of the progression. And I sold off a bunch of properties in the last couple of years, trying to simplify some things. But I still have some storage units. I still have some commercial units. I still have some residential. And I still have a 27 unit complex down in Prairie du Chien, actually. So still have a bunch of rentals, and different things. But really the main focus has been the private money lending for the last.
During your heyday, how many doors did you have?
The most I had at one time was 62 doors at one time. And bought and sold well over about 100, probably 115 doors, that's, or units, I should say. Doors is a lot more than that. But yeah, so.
That's amazing.
Managing myself for a while, and then decided I hated that, so got a property management company take over, which was a really nice thing.
Dang. So wait, you do have a property management company right now?
Not myself.
Okay.
No. But I hired a property management company. Yes.
Okay.
I used to manage myself, and I'm like, so I got.
How many doors until you decided to do the property management?
I actually was at the 62.
It was.
Yeah. And I started, be honest, I started really hating people because it was just like I was not good at it. They became. I wanted, it's a whole other story too. Mm-hmm. But handing off that property management and having a professional company take care of that stuff was awesome.
Yeah.
Great weight off my shoulders, number one, and just started making more money too that way.
We'll have to connect on that off stream.
Yeah.
So I actually own 5 right now. So I did same thing as you. Bought my first duplex, FHA, 3.5% down, lived in it. And then my next one was like 25% down because that's what I thought it was, you know, like that's, and then I quickly learned, I was like, no, there's other options. Let's keep more money in my pocket. The sign's not up, but like behind it, Robert Kiyosaki, his number one rule is pay yourself first, right? So I learned that I think my next one I did was 10% down, and then I bought one with 0 down. So there's like all these things out here, and this is why it's perfect that you guys are on, because I think you guys mainly help, I guess I don't want to assume, but you guys mainly help with hard money lending for flipping, or I guess dive into what kind of sides you guys really help out with.
Yeah, so it's about 50-50 with flipping and people that are looking at doing BRRRRs, buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and keep them. So a lot of people are still keeping those. A lot of the business we do is still people that are trying to build their portfolios, their rental portfolios. So it's a combination of the two, to be honest with you. So it's not just flippers that are using us by any stretch of imagination. So
I think a lot of people are interested in hearing about like the flipping side of things and the hard money part of it. So I know there's different avenues with the hard money, correct? On the approach, I guess, funding the entire thing, including the repairs, or just funding the purchase and then they fund the repairs, correct? So let's say that I found a flip, okay? What information do you guys need to make it a win for everybody?
Yeah, so just in general, when I'm looking at a deal personally, I don't want to have any of my own money in it. People look at debt many different ways, but I look at it. There's good debt and bad debt. If I can make money on that debt, I'm gonna do it. So if I can borrow at 4 and make 12, I'm gonna arbitrage that. So when I'm looking at a deal, we'll go to 65% of the after repair value. So what's that thing gonna be worth when it's fixed? Right? When it's all fixed up, what's it gonna be worth? 100,000, and just make numbers simple, worth $100,000, right? So talk to your realtor, you're like, this thing worth 100,000 when it's fixed up. You're getting the property for 50,000, right? We'll go to 65%, of that 100,000. So we'll end up to $65,000. You get the property for 50. It needs a $15,000 rehab. We'll fund the whole thing. So you can literally get into that property with none of your own money at that point.
Wow.
And then you can either flip it, sell it, or just keep it as a rental. So I mean, and when I'm looking at my borrowers, I want you to run both numbers. I want multiple exit strategies on every single deal. I want you to know that, hey, you can either sell this thing and make money, or you can keep it as a rental, long-term rental, and make money. And I say long-term because not saying you shouldn't do a short-term, but people always need a place to live, Jeff. So it's like if the municipality shuts down short-term rentals or whatever gets flooded, you can still keep it as a long-term and make money on that thing.
Okay.
So it really depends on what your exit strategy is when you're going in, but you want to have 2 at least when you're looking at it. So,
okay. And so do you guys, like, how do they get approved for these loans?
Yeah. So what happens with that is when you really look at what we do, just take off all our other hats, but when you look at just the good faith funding lending of the hard money, collateral-based lender, right? We're looking at, is that after repair value accurate? Is your scope of work accurate? And then we back into the numbers. We'll go to 65% at ARV if it's accurate. So it's really that easy.
Yeah.
I mean, now put on some other hats here. I want this deal to be successful no matter what, right? So I meet with every single borrower that we have. I do a Zoom call with every single potential borrower. I want to know, and we talk about, hey, what's your goals? What's your business? What have you done in the past? What are you looking at doing? Some people need a little bit more help. They maybe need some mentorship and things like that. And then we refer people over. But a lot of people, it's like, hey, you're ready to rock and roll. Here are the numbers and get going. But because I need them to have multiple exit strategies, I want them to be prepared or be pre-approved actually for the long-term financing. And I got my flippers always like, Tony, why do I need that? I'm like, because a flip can go sideways. And if it goes sideways, what are you going to do to be able to get out of that thing and still make money on it? Right.
Yeah. So you actually like mentor some of these people.
Yeah.
Which is pretty.
That's the most fun thing
cool.
about we've set up our business and we systemize so much stuff, Jeff. That call is about is a mentorship piece of it, And then if they need more help throughout the project, I want them to call me when something's going sideways. And I heard this again recently, that people are intimidated sometimes because we're their lender, that they don't want to tell us something's going bad. And I'm like, I'm 5'6". I'm not intimidating at all. Give me a call. Let's talk about this crap. I want to talk about it now because I've been doing this forever. And I don't know everything about real estate, but if I don't know the answer to whatever the problem is, I have a great group of people around me that I've established over the last 27 years that I can say, hey, talk to this person or talk to that person. Let's solve that issue right now. It's one of the things I love about real estate. There's so many ways to win in this thing, but you got to be a little bit vulnerable. You got to put your pride aside sometimes. And sometimes people are embarrassed. I get all that. Give me a call. Let's talk about it. Let's figure it out,
Yeah. Because then not only that, you're protecting your assets,
Absolutely.
but then you're also helping them where it's like, hey, I'm going to do this deal. Because you do see sometimes people undervalue repairs. So when you brought up like like those repair costs, they don't seem too accurate. And did you factor in this and this and
Yes.
that? So, do you need, like, let's say that I found something, do I need like a letter, or do you guys, so I send you, like, before I write, I send you all the material. Okay. So now I remember you saying that in one of them, and I want to know, how do people structure that in their offer so that they're protected?
Some people put an inspection contingency in there. I mean, if you can't, what I tell, and I'm not a realtor, so you can tell me if this is accurate. I'm just like, hey, throw in there, hey, a comment and saying I need my partner to look over the valuation or approve the valuation, right?
Yeah,
because we're just doing a CMA. I'm not getting an appraisal or anything like that. We're just doing a CMA, but I'm the partner. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And if I look at that valuation and it's way off, we're going to, then we're going to talk about it. And then that gives you an out potentially. I don't know the legalities of that. And so
you can negotiate anything in an offer.
Right?
So
okay,
like,
there you go.
Absolutely. It's just I think the best way I've heard it as a due diligence period almost. It's like I got 10 days to make sure that this is accurate from what I'm assessing based off just a walkthrough.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There you go. Perfect. So just so you do have an out. I mean, obviously but again, if you trust your realtor and you get a good CMA and you know what that value is and you're feeling good about your scope of work, I don't need to see the deal till you get an accepted offer.
Okay.
That's not saying I won't look at it beforehand.
Yeah.
If you want me to, but I don't need to. And a lot of times you got to move fast, man. So there's times where you're not going to be able to get in contact me in the time frame that you need to get that offer in. So you're putting that offer in, working on your numbers.
So even if you've never met this potential buyer before, like this new investor, he has an accepted offer and he comes to you guys. He's like, hey, let's make this happen. You're okay with having, well, obviously with that due diligence period, let's say, but you will still kind of look things over. Have you ever like denied somebody because of, I don't know, credit or just no experience yet or not having an established relationship yet?
Yeah. Every person I meet, every person we lend to, I've met with beforehand.
Okay. So recommend anybody, like if a guy's like, hey, I saw the podcast with Jaris and Tony and I want to get involved. This makes me feel more comfortable finding and flipping houses before they even start searching. It is probably a good idea for them to talk to first. Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay.
And we try to go to our website, hit the start here button. I try to make things, I like things simple. Watch my little 3 minute and 18-second video, answer a couple questions, set up a Zoom call, and we're off and running. But I do not lend. We do not, if I've not met you, we don't lend to you.
Okay.
Period.
Okay. So, do you guys have any good success stories with some of your clients that maybe could, like, somebody new and then all of a sudden now they're like burning and turning? Like, okay, yeah. I mean, it sounds like you guys got some.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I've done all the talking here.
Go ahead. You got the rights.
All right. So success stories. Yeah. I mean, tons of them. I mean, we have a couple people now that we're doing. For example, we're doing a couple that we're doing 20 loans at a time with right now.
Dang.
But those relationships have grown over time. It's not like I let somebody take 20 properties right at the bat, right? But as they set up their systems and their teams and their people, and they keep having successful deals, we can open the floodgates for some of these people and have done that. And people are you didn't ask this question yet, but people are always like, why do people use you, right? And there's really three reasons. One is because speed. We can close, and as soon as we have clear title, we can close. So we can close in a week or a couple days. Second is because when you're going to buy an investment property and it needs work, the bank's not going to typically lend. And there's caveats to all this, right? But the banks typically, if you go to your normal bank, they're not going to lend to you and give you the money for the rehab either. And they might not lend to you at all because the house isn't fixed up, right? You probably have seen that.
Absolutely.
So we can bridge that gap between there. And then we have other people that could get loans from the bank all day long. And I call weird convenience fee, if you will, but they pay a little extra to use us. And now it's not even that much because bank rates are so much higher. We haven't changed our rates at all, but they pay a little extra to use us because it's convenient. You're not dinking around having to go to a board or to the credit committee or anything like that. They're not having to do any of that stuff. They know that the money's there. When I was building my portfolio, Jeff, I would have loved to have had a me.
Absolutely.
Because we were scrambling. I'll never forget, we had a time where we got accepted. It was me and my two brothers. We got accepted offer on 3 deals on a Friday. And we had like 3 weeks to close these deals. And we didn't have any money. So I wish I could remember how we found it, but we've somehow found the funds to be able to purchase all those houses. But, it'd have been great to be able to just know that was there, because I can guarantee you that weekend I was freaking out.
Yeah, no kidding. So let's say that, and because it'll be good for easy math. So let's say I found a property for like total all in with you guys. So you bought it for 50 or whatever, or 65 or whatever. But then with the rehab, it came to a total of like $100,000. So I think people are curious, like, what are the fees involved? Because you say you guys have to make money off it. So what do those look like on let's say a total of $100,000 or something like that?
No, I'll let you.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm going to have some of this liquid death.
Oh, by the way, this is a perfect time for a sponsor that's not sponsored us yet. That's Liquid Death. Please, I beg you, even if it's free, just send free cases of Liquid Death.
To Jeff Nevin.
Thanks, guys. Thanks. Sponsor, please, I beg you. No.
It is delicious. The mango chainsaw.
Just love the bubbly.
Yes. So, after Tony meets with every borrower, we send them our loan payoff calculator. So they'll actually be able to calculate their cost of money to the penny, depending on how long their anticipated hold time is. But our general loan terms, which we have not changed in a dozen years, even as bank rates have gone up and down, we've kept it all the same, because we don't want the investor to wonder what's the rate tomorrow. We just want them to know what it is so they can run their numbers, in the evening as they're thinking about this offer. So what the costs are is we do a 6-month loan. It's really, again, for that bridge time from purchase through completing the rehab and getting it ready for sale, or they're going to get it refinanced and keep it. So it's a 6-month loan, 12% annual interest rate, and we do 3 points. And the points, we can roll 3 points, or 3% is how that's calculated of the loan amount. We can roll those points into the loan. So back to Tony's earlier example, you don't have to bring those points or to closing. It's not a cost out of your pocket. We'll roll that into the loan on top of the 65%. And that's really it. We don't have any other junk fees. We have a small wire fee as we're moving money back and forth, and that's it. And that usually plays quite well with our investors, because, again, that spreadsheet will tell them the cost of money, the interest for their desired hold time, as well as the points. And so they'll know exactly what that'll be.
So it's 3 points each month.
No, that's a good question. No, 3 points just for the loan. So if it's a 6-month loan, they'll pay just the 3 points up front for the amount that we're lending them.
Okay.
And that 3 points will be rolled into the loan. We do not have any payments, monthly payments on our loan. It's a single balloon payment at the end at the payoff of that loan, whether you're refinancing or selling the property. And so that's the other part. We try and make it very easy for investors. We really treat them the way we would want to be treated, meaning why make them be burdened with making a monthly payment? We'd rather have their time and, frankly, their money focused on, and their brain power focused on getting that property fixed up as quickly as possible so that they can turn that property to whatever the next chapter is. So no payments, single balloon payment at the end.
And that 12%, that's the interest rate each month. Is that
12%?
No,
annual interest rate. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's an annual interest rate. So if they hold it for one day, it's 1/365th of that interest rate. But it's about 1% a month if you kind of think about it generally that way, 12%.
Not
annual.
bad at all.
So 1% per month, and then the 3 points rolled in. And so the active investors worry less about the cost of money, because it's really about the points that Tony made, the access to capital, the quick close, and you just roll those numbers into your deal, and you worry less about the cost of money and more about finding the deal, buying the deal right, and executing the deal. and the velocity of doing that. The quicker they can turn, like that person that Tony mentioned, 20 loans at a time we're doing, they're turning those loans very quickly because every day they hold it longer, that costs them a little more interest. And so they're motivated. And that is the trick. That is the name of the game. And we're happy to hold the loan for a full 6 months, or if they want to pay it off in 45 days, that's okay too.
So, because let's see, the one in the duplex I bought, I should have talked to you guys because I wonder how this would have panned out. So here's what I did, and then tell me where you guys where I probably could have made some, or I guess keep more money in my pocket. So, I did no money down. So what I did was I bought the Waukesha property and I leveraged another property by, I was hoping to do like more of a blanket mortgage where they just put a lien against it. And then after that, like you have 20% equity in the one property that you purchased, then they remove that lien and then you could use it again. However, for some reason, and I don't know why, they couldn't make it work. I wanted to get the deal, so I moved forward. I probably moved too quickly. I probably should have asked around. But so here's what happened. So it was almost like a HELOC is what I pulled out of the other investment property, right? So now they use that for that 20% down, right? But now I have the mortgage payment on the property and then a mortgage payment on the other. I could refinance, okay? But if I do it within 5 years, then I pay an 8% penalty fee on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm literally going to hold on to it for 5 years before I like refinance. Ouch, dude. Tony's like cringing over there. So here's what I bought it for. I was making call. I mean, you guys heard me call before, right? So I called, talked to a gentleman. He's retired and he had this property, the Waukesha property. And he goes, I say, hey, I'm interested. I'm like, what do you want to sell it for? He's like, I'll take it for $250. I tried not shitting my pants. I'm like, sure. Yeah. I think, I'll have to think about it.
You can swear in your
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I just try not to use the F-bomb, but and then, I got the appraisal on it. Appraisal came back at 347. So bought it for 250, appraised at 347. Right.
Wow.
Awesome. So I thought I was winning. I'm like, sure, I'll take this deal. That way, no money down, whatever. So now let's say that I talked to you guys before that. Like I knew about this. What kind of, how would you have seen that working for me?
Okay, question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you bought it for $250. The bank then said, my guess is they're saying, hey, you to put 20% down on that $250, right?
Yep.
Correct? Because they weren't using the appraised value. That's a $350.
No.
Right.
No, yeah.
So then
the purchase price.
So then they did the purchase price 20% down. So in order to get that 20% down, you put a lien on another one of your properties.
Basically, but it wasn't a lien. That's what I was hoping to do without pulling, because they didn't change the mortgage by any means.
Yep.
It was just another HELOC, basically.
So they did a second mortgage on the other property.
Yep.
And then they made you make a payment on that property then too? An additional payment on that property?
So I'm making a mortgage payment on $200.
Gotcha.
Right. And then 50 on that. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's weird, number one. But I understand what they did. The 8% is that's ridiculous. But had you used us, okay, we could have done the 250, the entire 250. You then go to the bank. Then they use the appraisal, pay us off, and you have one mortgage on that with the 250.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the gist of it. And it's that simple.
Yeah, because I think because even with that is right before, because I even came in and I renovated it too. It was a little outdated.
Perfect.
Right. So
so your valuation would have been bigger at that point.
It would have been,
And that helps. That actually helps the fact that you had some renovation in there, because when they go do that new appraisal, right, then you can say, hey, I did this, this, and this. Appraisal comes in higher. You pay us off, and you're off and running with one property at that point.
Yeah.
Or with one mortgage at that point.
Shoot.
And you're not at an 8% penalty.
Yeah.
Because then what that does is it limits you to what you, I mean, if you wanted to sell that thing 3 years from now, because the market does something crazy, you got to take that 8%, and that sucks.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
and I can't leverage that property again until 5 years from now. Because I mean, so it's not 8% in the total. I think it's whatever's remaining.
Well,
left,
of course,
right? So,
it will be.
But still, I mean, that's 8%, even if it's 3 years from now, and I have to, mm-hmm.
8%.
Suggestion, please.
Yeah. Well, 8%. I've never even heard of an 8% penalty like that. So send me that paperwork. Let me look at it.
Okay. Yeah, I absolutely will. 100%.
That's why I'm like, what?
See, like that's like the thing is, I think a lot of people could they could see these opportunities,
Yeah.
but they feel stuck because they're like, I don't have 20% down.
I love though the fact that, and this is where I applaud you, because the fact that you utilize the other property, the equity in other property, a lot of people don't even know that exists. So the fact that you thought about that and used it, take the 8% out of it, that's awesome. Because for me personally, I don't want to have any money in any of these properties, right? Because then my cash on cash return is infinity. I love that number. Right?
Absolutely.
So to be able to utilize, you're playing Monopoly, right? You're utilizing those other properties to build equity and to really have none of your own money. As long as they're cash flowing, right? To me, that's good debt in that scenario. You have a crap ton of equity in that property. You're cash flowing in that property, right? You have another property that you're cash flowing on, and you don't have any of your money in it. That's awesome.
It's beautiful.
That's
I know.
awesome.
And that's what a lot of people like. Because you have like friends and family that say that, and they're like, well, I don't have 20% down. I'm like, well, there's other options, and this is why this is perfect that you guys are on, because people just don't know. But yeah, it's and just real quick, I mean, were you gonna say something?
I just wanted to add one thing
Yeah.
to your scenario. My hunch is when you were going to buy that new property to work out that with your bank, you were probably 3 to 5 weeks out on closing. Just a hunch.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, at least.
Mhm.
And imagine the scenario where the seller of the property you wanted to buy said, I'm not waiting 3 to 5 weeks. And all of a sudden you could have lost out on the deal. And so that's the other area that we can add value to, is if you meet with us, get through that video call, you now have access to our system to get a proof of funds. You can turn that to the seller and say, I can close within a week. That puts you in a much stronger position as a buyer. And you would have been pretty upset had you lost that deal if they said, I'm not waiting 3 weeks, if the seller said that.
big time. And I even think when we're trying to find, like, when a good opportunity comes up, and I'm able to tell them that, like, they want to sell, and I'm like, well, we could get money in your pocket in a week.
Mm-hmm.
They might jump on that opportunity, and they might even negotiate price that could be in a better favor because they're getting it sooner than
Exactly.
waiting like a week. Like a month, or So there's so many advantages of that, and I think it's absolutely crazy. I want to ask you though, because sure, like let's say that people have always been thinking about it. I've kind of told some people on how I find my deals, but let's say that gentleman that it has 20 loans out, has he mentioned how he's finding his deals?
Yeah, the super active investors, they have multiple lines in the water. So they're doing calling, much like you demonstrated for us. Side note, Jeff, I tell that story all the time. I think what you was masterclass, the live demonstration you did on how to.
I got lucky.
Well, it was masterclass. I tell it all the time. It was very, but so those people are doing their own calling. They're telling all their family and friends that they're real estate investors. All of a sudden you'll get, hey, my sister's selling, that kind of referral. They're also tapping into other active wholesalers. They're tapping into agents who find out about maybe pre-market stuff that they could tap into. And then they're looking for, the diamonds in the rough that exist on the MLS that maybe they could turn. So they're pulling multiple sources, and they're filling that funnel, the proverbial funnel, as much as possible on the top, and they're pulling as much through as possible. And they're super efficient at running their numbers, not only mentally in their head, but also on paper, so that they can say, I could buy this deal. So when they're at the moment with that seller, whoever that is, and they're like, well, I can't do that number, but I could do this number. And the seller says, okay, I'd be interested in that number. They're just get super efficient at that. Not only with themselves, but some of them have some small teams around them that help them with that too. And again, they focus less on where they're going to get the money from or how they're going to do the deal, more about buying it right and getting as much activity as possible. The investor world right now continues to be super, super active. And so there's some competition out there too. So they've got to be in a spot to not only be the most favorable for that seller, because that seller could be getting 4 or 5 other calls. They're like, oh, I don't know who I want to, even talk to. And they just got to have that right personality, obviously, and confidence in that to give that seller that they're the right buyer for the property. So putting a lot of lines in the water, getting very creative. And but what Tony and I were just at a meeting earlier today, those lines in the water can mean different for each active investor. Some are cold calling, some are sending out mailers, some are, doing other, going to networking meetings. They all got different strategies that work for them. Just finding what's best for you as an investor.
And one of the other things too is that there's wholesalers and things like that are out there that are finding deals off market, right? A lot of these wholesalers get to know them because they're pocket buyers. You give them your buy box and say, hey, Mr. Wholesaler, I want to, Mrs. Wholesaler, whatever, I want to buy in this area, this three bed, 2 bath, whatever. Let them know what you're looking for and what areas you're looking for. Get to know them as a person, because then when they get that deal, instead of sending it out to everyone, some do, some send it out, put it all over the place, but a lot of them just like to say, hey, I know that Jeff's going to buy a 3 bed, 2 bath in Waukesha, right, in this area, and he's going to call you up and say, Jeff, you want this to do or not? Mm-hmm. You know, so really the relationship piece, get out, take these people, get some coffee, get a beer, take them to lunch, whatever, get to know them and get them to know your buy box. What are your,
yeah. You guys are really selling this for me. I'll send this video to Liquid Death just so they know.
Yes, that's the other thing is make sure the relationships that you establish with people, and Jaris mentioned telling everyone that you know that you're doing this. I can't stress it enough.
I've even seen people join like Facebook groups that are like wholesaling Facebook groups.
Oh yeah.
And then taking it the next level is like you're saying, take them out to lunch and stuff and kind of get to know them. So you get the sweet deals before, you know.
Yes.
I had the question about, oh gosh, I lost it. So before that, I guess, you don't know what you don't know. Now, the questions that I've asked, has that brought up anything maybe I didn't mention on the hard money side? Because I want to segue in a second to how real estate agents could help their clients that aren't in the investing world, but making life transitions, which we will talk about. But before we segue, is there anything else that is important to know or people don't know?
I just, the biggest thing, and we kind of touched on this a little bit, but I mean, the biggest thing is you do need money to be a real estate investor, but you don't need your own money. Once I realized that, and once I figured that out, I'm like, that it'll allow me, because I didn't grow up with money. And if you did, God bless you. If you know, that makes this a lot easier. But once I realized that other people's money, I could utilize that, and also my own equity, equity in my HELOC on my house, or leveraging my car at 3%, and I could utilize, make the payments on that. I mean, when you start really thinking about all the different equity and things that you have in your own life, it's probably more than you think. But understanding that, hey, I can utilize other people's money, and we as a more of an established hard money lender, we're going to be there. One of the things I caution people is when you get Uncle Mark that wants to lend to you, and then he gets cold feet 2 days before it's going to close. I've seen that happen, and we get calls and they're like, hey, can you close our loan in 2 days? And we can, actually.
Because title work's done, right? You're only held by just the title work.
Exactly. Basically. But you just really have to pay attention to that. Not saying you don't do the loan with Uncle Mark, but it can be a problem.
It can be hairy.
It can be hairy.
And then you're tied to Uncle Mark until
you're tied down,
he gets his money back.
And you don't want Christmas to be weird.
No.
That's what I tell people. You just don't want that. No one wants that.
He's getting you coal for Christmas.
That's right.
Yeah, he's going to be you're on the naughty list with Uncle Mark.
The other thing too is that to really, the fact that we've been doing this for a long time, and we're here to help. This is fun when it's a win-win. It's fun. The last thing I want to do is take a property over. We take back very, very few properties because we help people through the process and get them set up with resources to make them as successful as we can. I'm not going to come swing a hammer for you. I'm not pounding a nail in, but short of that, we'll help in any way that we can. And that's a big piece of it, because you have a built-in mentor with this as you're working.
Yeah. And I was going to say, that's like what I teach my agents is like, just in general, like if you do it of course you want to get paid, but if you're in there and you're actually looking to genuinely help people, they're always going to come back. They're always going to refer you. And based off your story, basically, like you're just like, I want to, you found a business in what you enjoy doing, and you could help people and make money while doing it, but you really enjoy, sure, the money's great, right? But you truly just really enjoy helping people become successful. And they're doing things that they never thought could even be possible.
When the light switch turns on for people and they go from, I've seen this happen numerous times, and this is the exception rather than rule, mind you, but when people start doing this, and a lot of them do it because they hate their 9 to 5, right? They hate their W-2 job. And when they quit that job, I've had customers take me out to dinner because they quit their job. They quit their 9 to 5 and they're doing real estate full time. I mean, that's awesome.
That is incredible.
That's awesome. And that's so much fun. And I can see sometimes the light switch goes on and they're like, holy crap, I can do this.
So, okay. Tax benefits real quick. So you guys are in the real estate world. So like when I buy my duplexes, one of the major reasons why I do it, but I could only do it because I'm in real estate. But I don't have to be a real estate agent to take advantage of it. You could be a wholesaler, and that's still in that category to use accelerated depreciation. That's one of the biggest reasons why I do it as well, where I barely pay taxes each year, and it's incredible because I mean it's like, well, you don't pay taxes. It's like, well, I mean, I'm doing it legally. They made it so anybody who's flipping, can they do that if they did something that was a long-term hold? So like let's say they flip. They make their money, right? But then they buy 2 duplexes for a long-term hold or multifamily. Can they accelerate depreciate?
Well, they definitely want to talk to kind of their tax accountant on qualifying for that.
Right.
We don't even play one of those on TV, but there is some minimum qualifications, so many hours per year that you are actively involved in your real estate activities in order to qualify for that accelerated depreciation, or also called cost segregation. And so, yeah, that is a strategy for people, especially when they've got other income, like a real estate agent, or they've got some people have other income from maybe another W-2 job, but they're also active and qualified in the real estate, and they can offset all that income when it all comes together on their tax form. So absolutely is a strategy that many people employ because it is really about what you keep. It's not what you make. It's about what you keep. And I know that's quite, cliche, but we have to kind of always remind ourselves of that and other people of that really focus on how you can navigate through that. And every year is a different story in real estate. I made more this year. I've got more properties, and having, frankly, the accountant who can really advise you multiple times throughout the year to make sure that we're doing this maneuver. You should think about this, or this isn't going to help you as much this year, or they're going to rechange the cost segregation rules instead of 60%. You can go back to 100 or whatever those rules could be. Be nimble and be ready for that. So that you can keep as much as possible.
Crossing my fingers that happens this year.
I know you are.
So, all right. I want to talk about, because you guys do also bridge loans. Now, for people who don't know what bridge loans are, that is where you can purchase a house without having a home sale contingency by leveraging the equity in your house. Correct? Am I saying that right? Or am I being somewhat kind of okay. So the biggest sticking point for a lot of our clients is if they are looking to downsize or upsize, they're like, well, I don't want to be homeless, or I need to buy first. But when they're competing in a market that has low inventory and there's 5 other offers on the table and you're the only one with a home sale contingency, they're probably not going to go with you, right? So I've used or have had a couple clients use bridge loans. Can you guys explain a little bit about how that works?
Sure, absolutely. So how a traditional bank will handle that is they're going to look at the new property and try and give you a loan on the new property while tapping into the equity on the existing property. And it's quite a big lift for a bank to figure all that out. And in most cases, get it through their credit committee, when banks right now can be very choosy on what kind of deals they want to do. And so it's a complicated I've done 2 bridge loans in my life before, joining with Tony, and it was a complicated lift even, 10 years ago, let alone today. So the banking world makes it, and I understand why, but it makes it complicated. How we approach it is in the house, the existing house that homeowner has, if there's enough equity in that house, let's assume they have a mortgage on the property, and we don't have to get into all the numbers here, but let's assume they have a mortgage on that property, but there's enough equity in that house. We'll basically do a refinance of their existing home. So we're going to pay off their existing mortgage, and we're going to do a new mortgage on their existing home such that they have enough equity, basically a cash out refi, so we can give them the cash at closing so that they have the cash for the down payment on the new property. Okay. And so essentially, we're helping them bridge so that they can go make an offer on the new property using our proof of funds or whatever lender they're going to use in the new property, but we're helping them extract the equity out of the existing home that they have. But we need to be very clear on the numbers. We need to be very clear on the process and the timing. We need an engaged person, because in that case, they're less of an investor. They're probably a homeowner. All right. And we need to make sure that they understand how this process works. It's not overly complicated, but we need them to be engaged and just make sure that we can talk through it with them. So we have done those. It's just making sure that the borrower understands. And frankly, the real estate agent is an integral part of that, so they can help this person understand how they get the equity out of their current home to go make that offer on the new home. And then once the deal closes on the new home, and they get their funding from their long-term lender, and that they're paying off, us on the existing home, and it all kind of cycles through. But they can make that process fairly straightforward as long as they're engaged, and it can be a win-win for them. But they need to have equity in that existing home to kind of make the numbers work.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
But I'm going to let Tony add a couple things.
Yeah.
No, the only thing I was just going to add is really what you said last there is it can't, if someone's leveraged to the gills, we're not doing it, right? We can't do that. There has to be enough equity. And I'm still going to meet with I'm going to explain to the the borrower, I'm going to explain what's going on, explain the process so they have some idea of what they're getting themselves into, because it's not your typical through the bank. And they oftentimes what we find is that our real estate investors have heard of what we do and things, whereas your typical buyer, who doesn't delve into the investment realm, they're not as educated with this stuff. So it's one of those things where it is a little bit heavier lift for us to make sure that the realtor knows what's going on, buyer knows. Jump on a call, explain the fees. I don't like surprises, so we let them know exactly what, hey, here's what it's going to cost. Here's what happens. The other thing is that house has to sell. That's what's going to pay us off. If it doesn't sell, right, what is that other exit strategy? We talk about that too. You might need to keep that as a rental property at that point too, potentially. I want them to know that that's an eventuality if indeed if indeed their property doesn't sell. Now there should be enough equity where it should sell, right? But so we talk those things through.
Yeah,
to make sure that everyone knows what's going on.
And I think it sounds like it's very important just doing a lot of research on the home to make sure that they have that equity. Because there's a lot of times where I'll go to a listing appointment and they say that they think their home is worth X dollars, and it really, unfortunately, is not worth X dollars. But you just can't go off the word of what they think.
And what do you owe on your property? I owe $100,000. Really? Well, we get this mortgage statement. It's $150.
Exactly. Yeah. So
we see that stuff happen. So yeah.
So I've seen like
trust but verify. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Exactly. Right. Exactly. In a typical process, I think, because I've only dealt with like I don't know if Landmark Credit Union or whatever does it, but like a bank like that, not with a company like you guys have. So they typically just try and get pre-approved for like the bridge loan. Is that kind of the similar thing? Or are you guys also closing and refinancing on it right away?
It would be a pre-approval type thing on something like that. Because if you don't have a property to buy, you want to know that this is going to happen first. And then, once you get a property, I'm not going to refinance that, because we're going to be higher rate than what you're currently at. I'm not going to refinance that till it makes sense for you to, as the borrower, to do that.
Yeah.
Right? And we don't really need to be honest, until you close on the other house.
Yep.
Ultimately.
So another thing that maybe some buyers, and tell me I'm wrong, if I thought this was what I heard. So if, let's say, they close on the new house using the bridge loan, right? They have a mortgage on that new house. Is it a full-blown mortgage on their other house until it sells, or is it just interest-only payments?
Well, that's a really good question. Typically, we don't charge payments at all during that, and you just pay it off. You just pay it off when you sell the house. Just like any, we keep the process or the terms similar, exactly the same as they are for our investment stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
So
they just paid off. They paid off when they sell it.
12% annually, and then no kidding,
and then they just paid up. Jaris has got to talk.
No, I'm just going to say, with a traditional bank, that borrower has got to make payments on the original house and on the new house. And that double payment is usually the part that they're going to struggle with. So to kind of restate maybe the scenario a little bit, on their existing home, we're going to refinance that home to pull the equity out. No payments on that until that existing home sells. So that's why the engagement with the real estate agent is extremely important, because we want to know how confident they are that existing home is going to sell within a reasonable amount of time, so that we can get paid off on the sale of that one. And so, but there's no payments during that time. So that borrower is only really, or homeowner is really only focused on making the payments on their new home and using the down payment money we extracted from their existing home so they can go get that long-term mortgage on the purchase of their new home.
No kidding.
That's exactly
that's huge.
We think so. We think so. And as long as the real estate agent and the homeowner all understand that. Not all they complicate. We just need to make sure that everyone understands the steps, the expectations, and the confidence of that real estate agent in the valuation and the speed to sale is some key inputs. So
That's wow. Okay, because that's like one of the some people just they don't because they think that they're going to be paying two mortgages.
right.
And I thought it was interest payment, and it's like like you said, some like banks do where it is somewhat just interest only payments, but it's still two freaking payments each month until it sells. But you could roll that. Basically, what you're doing is rolling it into your refinance at the end.
Exactly.
So you're not, you could still buy groceries,
That's exactly it.
while you're in the new house until it sells. What other? Do you guys have any other programs or anything that's like better? It's more just hard money and those are your two babies, huh?
Yeah, and frankly, we just really have one loan program. It's just two purposes. Investors can use it, as well as this, home owner occupied bridge loan can use it. We like to keep things simple, so we don't have this menu of different loan programs. Simplicity is important for us because then we can just be masterful at that and rinse and repeat and keep offering that. That's why we haven't changed our rates in nearly a dozen years. The process is the same. We've made the process more efficient for our investors, but it really is the same list of underwriting, and as well as the borrower experience is important for us. So our borrower portal, we make that super efficient so that in minutes they can have the application in and not spend a lot of time or distraction time on just getting the application in, let alone working through the process with us.
You guys have no idea how big of a meeting this is for the audience that just can actually hear it from somebody, and not just because you hear it from TikTok, which banned, but like those videos are like, oh, hard money, this is how it works, and they're like, find out they feel like they're going to get gouged with hard money, and that's really not the case, or they still have to have some kind of money. But like you said, Tony, it's like, yeah, you do need money, but it doesn't have to be your own, and I think that's amazing.
I do want to say though, in regards to that, is I am half Italian. So if you don't pay us back, I know people. So just, I don't want to scare anybody here, but I don't want to scare anyone, Jeff, but I'm just saying.
That's your exit plan.
Yeah.
That's the exit plan. So thank you guys so much for coming. I typically at the end of my podcast, I like to, because I've spoke with coaches, other realtors. I even had my bookkeeper on here, and I asked them if there's any advice that they could give the audience that is a good takeaway for them to implement right away, or things to watch out for. I mean, what do you guys like? What kind of advice would you give somebody just starting to get into it?
Well, I think there's kind of two audiences here. There's the investor audience and the real estate agent audience. So I would say on the investor side, go to as many in-person networking meetings that you can. Be consistent with that. Network with people outside of those meetings. Still a little bit from you here, but and spend time with those folks to learn, to share, because you share your knowledge as well. But really, that networking and learning, and never assume, just like we never assume that you know everything. And really have those resources around you, whether it's, the real estate agent, the wholesaler, the money people, the contractors that are going to do the work, the accountants. Have those people around you so that you can be successful and listen to those people. I think that's super important on the investor side. On the real estate agent side, I think it's really looking at the buyer community, not only the owner-occupied community, but there's this whole separate community of investor community that are willing to buy properties on market. Or maybe you've got, a pre-on market kind of deal that you can funnel to them and maybe pre-sell before you bring it on market or as you're bringing it on market. The investor community are as active as I would think the owner-occupied community, different maybe quantities and scale, but the point is those people are motivated buyers, smart buyers, and often you can really tap into really how you can service them well. So that would be the two things I would share. I mean, there's a lot more we could talk about, but two little nuggets.
Okay.
And I'll turn it over to Tony.
Yeah, well, you stole a lot of my thunder there, but the biggest one seriously is setting up your team, getting and surrounding yourself with people that know more than you. So because I can't stress enough the people think that, hey, I got to put 25% down, 20% down on every single investment deal. You don't know what you don't know, right? Getting to those meetings, there's other podcasts and other things that you can listen to where they specifically real estate investing, whatever. But really, there's a lot of abundance mindset real estate investors in this community. Find those people, take them out for coffee. I mean, learn from them. I still, to this day, I try to have a couple different meetings a month with people where I'm going and learning from them, and we're having a conversation. Try to pick up some nuggets to be like, to make this process easier for me. And hopefully also being able to figure out, really asking them, what can I do for you too? It's not a one-way street with that, and really be gracious for when people do give you their years of experience. Take advantage, but be gracious. And there's a lot of knowledge out there, and then you're going to get a lot. Sometimes it's like a fire hose coming at you too. Okay. So, but you can get analysis paralysis where you're jump in, do a deal. And if you have to get a mentor or have to do the deal with somebody for the first couple, find that person that you trust. You don't have to do a million deals with them. Maybe only one, but go through that deal. You'll learn that real estate is not rocket science. It's nuance. There's different things that'll help you be more successful, but we pay for education all the time. So get out there, do a deal.
Yeah. Invest in yourself, man.
Invest in yourself. And if you and I just one more little success story from a guy. The first deal he did, he lost $17,000, right?
No kidding.
Okay. Terrible. And this was years and years ago, but $17,000. But he looked at that. He's like, I pay for college. He goes, do you know how much I've learned during this process? And now he has a huge portfolio. So he just, not saying you go out and lose money. I'm a huge, huge proponent of making money. So learn, but man, don't worry if you pay a little bit. Do a deal.
He paid $17,000 for a good education.
For a great education. Yeah. And now he's got a huge portfolio and is doing real estate full time. So.
That's amazing. Where can people find you?
So on the web, goodfaithfund.com is our website. You can go there. We've got some resources on there. If you want to meet with us, just click on the Start Here button. We got a little short video, and then just scroll down to the Schedule button and schedule some time for a video call with us. That's really the first step. Also out on Facebook in Good Faith Funding. We're out on Facebook, and we try and be fairly active out there as well. Just happens to be kind of the platform a lot of real estate investors use for not only those real estate groups that you talked about. There's a lot of off and on market real estate investor groups out there that you can tap into, and just reach out to us. We'd love to chat. Whether you use our money or not, we just love talking real estate. We love helping, and we can not only talk about real estate, but we can also share our experience on setting up partnerships, how to manage a business, how can you best keep the money that you make versus giving as much away maybe in taxes or whatever else. We're just willing to share that knowledge. But those are the ways to find us. We lend all over Wisconsin, anywhere in Wisconsin, although we're based up in Green Bay. But we just do Wisconsin. We just stay in our lane. We focus just on Wisconsin, non-owner occupied residential properties, 1 to 4 units. And we just do that all day, every day.
Awesome. Thank you guys for coming. And that's closing time. So next time, give us some suggestions, comments, Jaris, Tony, thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Jeff, very, very much. All right.